Is open, Moffett Field is open, but San Francisco is closed?
San Francisco is closed, no incoming flights, no outgoing flights, all of it.
Once again, 6 people reportedly crushed to death in their cars in San Francisco, the south of Market Street area of San Francisco, when a major earthquake in the Bay Area hit at 5:04 this afternoon. It knocked power off the air to ABC, to KGO Studios here. Right now we have Johnny McCormick live by the telephone. He was a witness to the collapse. Cypress. Okay, I'm sorry, Johnny. You were with the Cypress collapse? Go ahead, Johnny. You're on the air.
Yes, it was very...
Johnny, could you speak up, please? We can barely hear you.
Yes, I think that the youngsters deserve good things because they helped a lot with
now,
the...
Okay, Johnny, we have a picture of the collapse of the 880 section of the Cypress, and I see a fire there. What did you see?
Oh, I seen the fire, and I seen a person laying down with their head bust open and everything.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, I'm having difficulty hearing you. I'd appreciate it if you could speak up just a little bit. What did you do when this collapsed?
I ran.
You ran. You got out of your car and ran?
I wasn't on the freeway. I was at the store.
You were at the store, but you saw the freeway section collapse?
Yes.
Uh-huh. What went through your mind when you were watching this?
I thought it was the end of the world.
You thought it was the end of the world. You know, Johnny, I think a lot of people who have experienced this quake today felt the same way. This is a major quake in the Bay Area. The readings, 6.7 to 7 point on the various Richter scale readings that we're getting. Epicenter 10 miles northeast of the Santa Cruz area.
You see there a crack in what appears to be a steel girder. Now, this is cement here. Again, we talked with a lot of the fans as they were leaving the ballpark. Some of them were carrying chunks of concrete. There you see one right there.
Oh, we looked up the top and it was shaking. It was almost like a foot crack in the top up there.
Oh, yeah?
Really, where the brakes are at, you can see
thought
the fans were just cracked.
Tell me that again.
There's the brakes there on the wall. You see, there's like a foot difference where they were shaking right there.
Oh, yeah?
A foot difference. It was shaking that bad.
I think the thing that was strange out there was you had this crowd that was so excited about the game that it took them a long time to figure out what had happened. I mean, when the shaking first started, they were actually cheering and saying, well, this is going to help the Giants. And then after a little while, it started to sink in what had happened. And again, many of them, as they were leaving the park, I don't think had any idea of what had happened to the Bay Bridge or to the Cypress stretch of 880, and that we have a very serious quake here and a lot of deaths on our hands at this point.
With 40 or 50,000 people around you, you must sort of feel like you are...
Well, they're still in game mode. You know, they're still very much in game mode. But the mood out in the city as you drive out now is, it's dark, it's very eerie, and it is a gridlock. So if you can avoid getting out onto the streets, I think that is definitely advisable.
And the latest figures, the figures that I might add keep coming in, would show why there is such a serious mood around the city. Right now, CBS says there are 53 people dead in the Bay Area as a result of the earthquake so far. That includes the 45 people in Oakland on Highway 880 that we told you about, as well as 6 in San Francisco so far confirmed dead, and 2 people on the Bay Bridge. Once again, the total is 53, and unfortunately that is likely to rise as the evening.
I think the other thing, as I was listening to the radio coming in here, that is of concern, and I know you've been talking to experts here, is that, you know, in the 1906 quake, the big damage did not come from the earthquake itself. The big damage came from fires that came after. So experts are really warning you to turn off the gas and to be very...
We're suffering the same problems.
And
to toll gates, there were big splits, and actually the freeway had dropped.
that if you've got flashlights, it's definitely a safer alternative because the fires are a concern.
If you're sitting in a dark house right now, obviously the temptation is to try and get light somehow, either a fireplace or candles. And as close as we can tell, that is the last thing that they would like you to do. We also mentioned just a little while ago that there is a sinkhole that's begun to develop on northbound 101 north of 3rd, near Candlestick. Did you see that as you were coming?
No, because the way that we got back here as fast as we did in an hour and a half was we were going in little side streets. Do those lights mean anything like we're getting power back or anything? No, huh? We were taking little side streets, and so we were staying away from the main arterials because the traffic is absolutely packed. And of course, people were getting on the road from Candlestick not knowing until they got into their cars and started going, that the Bay Bridge was closed. So there are a lot of people out there who don't know what's going on.
101 is now closed.
Brinkley standing by live right now. Leslie, go ahead.
It's looking bad over here in Oakland. The electricity is out in much of the city, and we have a bad freeway collapse. It's that ramp of the Nimitz Freeway that goes from Cypress Street on up to the Bay Bridge. About a 6 or 7 block stretch of it collapsed during the earthquake. There have been ambulances going in and out of here all evening long. We understand as many as 30 or 40 ambulances, and preliminary reports right now are that there may be as many as 8 to 40 dead. 8 to 40 dead, many others injured. This again is a stretch of the freeway. The upper ramp collapsed onto the lower ramp. And we understand that the columns gave way. Those columns began to crumble and sway, and the freeway collapsed down. We're waiting to get in a little closer and get some official word for you, but it is a disastrous scene over here in Oakland.
It might be good to point out a couple of things at this point, and that is partially coming from the trip we made from Candlestick Park here to downtown San Francisco and what we saw. 2 or 3 things leap out at you. First of all, if you don't have someplace to go, do not get in your car. Don't go out there. It's the worst possible thing to do at this point. Try to stay close to home. If you're concerned about gas leaks, if you're concerned about the structure of the home, then for heaven's sake, get with neighbors, whatever you have to do here in the city or in the outlying areas, and stay out of the structure. The other thing is that we saw and smelled gas leaks virtually every place that we went. Be very, very careful if you smell the gas. We saw a couple people trying to start fires on the street for light. Now, this was in areas of the town where we were smelling the gas. Don't do it. Don't smoke inside of a building. You simply can't do it. You can't take that kind of chance.
We have an update now, unfortunately, of more injuries to be reported. We now understand that 6 people died in Santa Cruz in the City Garden Mall. At least 20 injuries were reported in the marina. This picture is one that became the first visible serious structural damage. I think for most of us, it was the first picture we had. This was a 30 to 50 foot section of the bridge, obviously just crushing down on the lower level.
On a Candlestick, this is the first time. When we saw these pictures in your report, we realized for the first time how serious this was.
Thanks very much. There are some people who need to go to work. First of all, we had a bulletin earlier requesting that all elevator service repair people who work in the Bay Area, please report to their answering services. There are people trapped in elevators all around the Bay Area. Another note, San Jose Police Department is asking all off-duty personnel to please report to their stations, except for those who are scheduled to work the midnight shift. In addition to that, San Francisco Fire is asking that all firefighters report to the training center. And unfortunately, we have more information about the injuries we told you about a little bit earlier. We have a confirmation from the hospital that at least 50 people died in that collapse on the Cypress structure. We have a confirmation of 6 dead in Santa Cruz in the City Garden Mall, and at least 200 injuries nearby there. Hospitals around the Bay Area are reporting a wide range of different kinds of injuries. Many have activated emergency plans. San Mateo's Chope Hospital is reporting several injuries from cuts and bruises and also heart attacks, mainly involving senior citizens.
I am at Vista Point at the north end of the bridge, and believe me, this is the most unusual sight. What you're going to be looking at just behind me is an absolutely black city. Vista Point, of course, is where the tourists come to take a look at San Francisco, and what you're seeing is a few lights glittering. Earlier we saw fires burning, and you're seeing no power at all. The other thing I want you to take a look at is over here, the Golden Gate Bridge is operating on minimal power. They have told me that they cannot turn on the tower lights. Again, this is a most unusual sight. Marin County, thankfully, had very little damage. But again, the Golden Gate Bridge is dark, the city is dark, and earlier we did see fires burning all along the waterfront in the Marina District. Thankfully, Marin has fared very well in all of this. The bridge has said that they have found no structural damage so far, but they are going to continue operating on minimal power. They don't feel they can expend the power. Let's take another look at that blackness off beyond, which should be a glittering city of San Francisco. Normally, you see the pyramid, you see the buildings lighted, and it's really a very frightening scene behind me. It's as if nothing existed. And we're getting word over here, of course. You're giving us word about the deaths on the Bay Bridge. Again, Marin fared fairly well. But it is rather strange to be standing here looking at a city literally bathed in darkness.